Hello and welcome to this episode of the Sovereign Society podcast. I am your host, Sabrina Riccio, and honestly, I have been waiting for this conversation for so long with my girl here, Lexi D'Angelo. I've been following this woman for years. Like, I've literally seen your brand evolve, and it's been so beautiful to see where you are now. And I see you so in your power and so in your dharma. And so I'm just so grateful that I get to finally have this conversation with you. Like, this has been one on my list since I started the podcast, really. So I thank you for taking the time to have this conversation with me.
Oh, I feel so honored and I'm so excited to be here. I can't wait to see what we dive into today.
I know, just going into the flow. But I just, the biggest thing I really want to start with is like talking about how your brand and your business has evolved, because I do feel like a lot of people who are starting their business, they're all like, oh, like they have the big dreams, which are great. And there's also steps to get there, and to also just be patient with the process because it evolves as we evolve. So I would just love to hear your story about when you first started to where you are now, and like how that journey has really made its ebb and flow.
Yeah, shit. I mean, that journey, interesting. I mean, it has been quite a fucking journey, to say the least. And I'm a really impatient person for the most part. And so when I first got started in this coaching world, like I had that vision and that feeling of what it would be like when I quote unquote made it. And I was like, so tapped into what that would look like and feel like, but I knew it was so far away because I had zero clients and I was health coaching, which like wasn't totally in alignment with what I really wanted to be doing. And so for me, I just want to give a shout out to like anybody who's tuning in right now, who you're just starting and you have these big dreams and these big visions, but you're kind of like, okay, how do I go from where I'm at right now to where I want to be? Because it can feel overwhelming. But what you said is like, it's the constant step-by-step evolution. And as you grow, your business will grow and it'll change and it will evolve. And I think that there's sometimes this like clenching of like, I have to get it right now, but there is no right except for what is right now. And so, yeah, like I started out, like I was saying, in the health coaching industry, which was kind of random. I was sort of into my health at the time, and had seen how profoundly that was having ripples in my life. And I wanted to support other people with that. And I heard about this thing called health coaching where you could talk to people
What
online.
year was that? What year was that?
Oh, what year is? I think it was 2013 when I first heard about it. And yeah, IIN was like, there was like an ad, a Facebook ad for IIN. And I was like, what is this? And so that was kind of the portal that led me into this whole world. Ultimately I joke around that at the time I really liked pizza too much, wine too much, etc., to be a good health coach. So on the side, I was doing like random branding things and social media things to like make money while I was trying to do this health coaching business. And oh, my dog is growling at me right now. I thought she was going to be down for the count. Should I put her outside?
She's cool.
Come
We
here,
keep it
Nola.
around here.
She just wants attention. She's a superstar.
Yeah.
So yeah, I basically, like, people were like, you're really good and helpful at this business stuff and this marketing stuff. Now Kato wants in on the action. I'm so sorry. They were like,
hello, Bud's at my feet too. Like they know what's going on. They're like, she's gonna step into her truth right now.
yeah, they're like, let me share mine too, and my fluff everywhere. All right. Well, hopefully you guys will be on your best behavior. If not, I will put them outside. But anyway, so I'm like so distracted by them. What was I saying? Right. Okay. So they were like, oh my God, this is so helpful with the business and the marketing. Like, why don't you do this? And I was like, that's a great question. Like, I love helping people with like their bigger visions and stepping into their brand and making these things come to life. And so, it was just one clue after another, because then I went more into like the business coaching world, then into spiritual coaching, and then like a mix of like astrology and business coaching, and then, you know, everywhere in between. Like if
That's
there
the
was a
one I
specific,
remember. I remember you had like the wheel, like you had like
oh yeah,
with the different, like it was like a year-long program. And
yep.
I just loved your branding, and I love branding. I mean, that's like my shit. So I was like, oh, this girl's got it going on.
Yes, like branding is how I feel like I tap into the energy and the vision of what I'm creating.
Hmm.
A lot of the times my team will be like, you need to step away from the graphics. And I'm like, you're right, to an extent where like I can't get lost in the nitty gritty. But when I'm creating something, when I can really like play around with graphics and the visuals, and it just helps me anchor into it so much more.
I'm the same.
Um, yeah, yeah. So you get me. People who like
So
process like that,
you're
they
not
get it.
alone. You're not alone.
Thank you.
Because like I'm the same way. Like even when I was back in college, like I have my degree in business and it was like an emphasis in marketing. Like I was in charge of the visuals and the branding. That was my favorite thing. I mean, granted, I was like the stoner in college and I just would get caught up in like making all the graphics and making things look pretty and like have the best like presentations out of the whole class. And but to me, I think there's such a powerful energy in that branding too.
Yes. Yep. I do as well. And I think that like, I mean, visuals create like they have an energy around it, right? And
Mm.
they carry like magic with them. And so I think that sometimes when people say things like, oh, you know, your environment like doesn't really matter, or like, so what if you're staying at a nice hotel versus a regular hotel? I'm like, no, like that really matters. Like my environment, the way the clothes I wear, you know, the way things like look on my sales page, like that matters to me because it really does, um, you
There's a
know,
frequency to it.
totally, like
Yeah.
it's all energy, and
Hmm.
it really does transport me like into a different world. And so, you know, for I think a lot of my clients, whether they think that way or process that way, I will always have people just say like, there's something about your vibe or like the look and feel of your brand that just captivated me. And I didn't really understand it, but I knew I had to learn more. So that's usually like the thing that intrigues people. And then, you know, the content, of course, helps them stay. But I think there is something to be said about, you know, powerful graphics and a powerful brand for sure.
Yeah. And with that, it's like, I know for the, like, I have definitely got caught up in focusing too much on the perfectionism. Like I'm a Virgo moon. So I'm
Yes.
like, you know, it's like,
Virgo rising, so I get it.
so it's always like needs to like look good. And then sometimes though, like I know with my clients, like I have them make sure that you're focusing on the content first and like
Yes.
who you
Yes.
are first. Cause you can
Yes.
have it look pretty, but if the content isn't there, it's not going to do anything.
Totally. And I think that's where, not that my content was like bad when I first started, but I think that my graphics like gave me an edge, you know, like this professionalism that wasn't quite established yet. And so I was attracting people, but I felt like really insecure about my skills and my yeah, like the coaching tools that I had in my toolbox and all the things. So I felt like very fraudy.
Mhm.
And that was definitely really difficult. And so it in this like element of perfectionism set me out on this path of like, well, I have to like have all the knowledge and all the tools, and like that's a whole clusterfuck in itself. And so I think along this journey, it's been interesting to navigate. Okay, like where's the line between I really want to be masterful at my craft and like, okay, now this is just perfectionism and this is like shiny object syndrome and all that stuff. And so being able to tap into my truth and really feel into my vision and where I feel like I'm going next versus what everyone else is doing and what people are saying like you should be doing has been really interesting to navigate.
Yeah. And I mean, I was just posting on Instagram the other day that like to be a good spiritual teacher is more than just good marketing.
Yep.
You know, like there's so many people out there that are like crushing it with the marketing and good for them. But like, what is your why on why you're doing this work? Is it to feed the spiritual egotism or is it to actually be of service?
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah.
I've been seeing a lot. And it's just like, I can't keep quiet about it anymore. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just feel like I have to call it out, because otherwise like it's just going to keep going. And there's kind of like this like vicious cycle right now in the spiritual wellness community that just makes me sick. And it was amazing hearing like how many people, like I did a poll, like how many people were like, oh my God, I'm so tired of it, you know? And there's so much of that comparison paralysis that can come to with social media. And it's like, oh my God, like they look like they're having the best life. And
Yep.
it can be that shame of like, well, I'm not there, you know, like.
Totally. Totally. Yeah, I think there's like a couple of things inside of that, because there is this element of, like I said, I've taken so many certifications and programs and things, and there's been some like really amazing marketing. And then I got on the inside and I was like, are you kidding me? Yeah, that was my reaction. I was like, what? How is this like even okay?
Yeah.
How is this even like a thing? And so that definitely propelled me to like want to create my own programs and my own certification, because I saw a huge gap in what was being marketed versus what was actually being taught. And I wanted to make sure that people were actually getting what they, you know, paid for and what they were coming for. But then again, there's also that line of like, okay, comparisonitis, and you know, what is overdoing it. And I think that in the past I've tried to like overstuff my programs to compensate for things that like I felt frustrated with in other people's programs, but that's not helpful either. So it's like, I think that this is just like so interesting to navigate, because I think there's also this misconception from people who see people who are successful and they're like, they've got it all figured out, they know what they're doing. And I'm like, I am still figuring it out. Like I am a human. We're all humans, like trying to navigate this the best that we can. And so my way that I think is the best way to serve people is probably going to be different than your way. And that's okay too. So it's not to be like, oh, my way is the best way and like everyone needs to do it this way, but I think that we have this opportunity where we get to really be in integrity with what we stand for and our values and our mission in the world. And we have to really take a stand for what we believe in and show up online so we can attract the people and serve at our highest level to create those shifts that we want to see in the world too.
Definitely. And I know for me, like when I created Thrive, it was really important for me to help my clients like really hone in on what do you value? Like what is the ethos of like what you're doing? Because I just feel like, you know, a lot of people want to be coaches right now, or they want to be mentors right now, but like you have to understand, like you are creating a sacred container for your clients to have transformation.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to make sure you have that solid foundation first, and that really solid container first, because alchemy is happening, metamorphosis is happening, transmuting is happening, and you want to make sure it's solid so that there aren't holes coming through and leaking out, because this is spiritual work.
Yeah.
And we have to make sure, and this is sacred work.
Yes.
You know,
I think that gets lost sometimes, or a lot of times, unfortunately.
yeah, because it's like I'm all about like having this medicine and this magic become mainstream, but how do we also allow it and make sure it's in its integrity, and that it's still respected and not just like a trendy thing? Like these are ancient like this is ancient medicine that we're working with here. And so I just know like there's so much of that's happening that just feels like there's holes, like it's not solid.
Mm-hmm.
And
Like, yes.
that's where I've just been so frustrated lately, you know?
I get it. And that was part of the reason for me creating the certification, is because I was there like in the past too, where I wanted to help people and I wanted to create these sacred spaces and containers, but I wasn't equipped to be completely honest. And, you know, we learn as we go and we're doing the best we can with the tools that we're given at any moment. But I just knew that like, if I had felt that way along the journey and like I had taken all these courses and done all these programs and I still felt like inadequate and also struggling to really facilitate like the deeper, more transformational experiences, then that was a problem. that I wasn't alone. Like I definitely wasn't alone in that. And so how could I, change that? And how could I make sure that when people are meaning well and they want to be, the change in the world, well, okay, how do they do that in a way that's like ethical and in integrity and healing, not hurting? Because sometimes like when we're doing this work, there's a desire to help, but if we, poke and prod and do things that open wounds and we don't know how to facilitate the healing work and like close it up, then like we're just letting people walk around like it's like, comparing it to surgery, like with these open gashes or whatever it is. Like we really need to know how to
Seal
facilitate
the
the entire
container.
process. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And that's how you know that's a teacher or a guide who's been doing the work. Because to me, it's just like I was talking about this with my mentor last week, and she's been doing this work for 30 years and she's not really on the online world yet because she's busy helping people all over the world. And she was just like, I'm really concerned about the way the spiritual movement is, because like there's holes, and it's more than just a weekend certification. Like you have to really be embodied and integrated. And that's the thing too, like in Kundalini yoga, we talk about like the action, like doing the work, like is the Kundalini rising is the masculine, but the integration and the embodiment is the feminine. And a lot of people aren't doing the embodiment element of it.
Yes. Yes. And that's like I was getting caught in a trap prior, because I personally am so comfortable in the mental plane. Like I love learning and I love like getting into concepts and theories, and I could geek out on that shit all day long. And that's what I found myself doing. But I was skipping over the integration and the embodiment and really letting it sink in and permeate my everyday life and my everyday actions. And that's when I realized like, oh, I really need to walk my talk, and I really need to make sure that moving forwards, like I am in integrity with what I'm saying and teaching, because otherwise it's just empty and I'm not learning or growing from that either. So once I was finally able to really like step into true embodiment, and it's never perfect, I also want to like say that as well. Like personally, people are like, well, do you do like a morning practice every single day without fail? And I'm like, actually, like, no, I have a lot of flexibility with my days and how I operate, because that's what works best for me. But there is a consistency, and there is like that thread of always coming back to my craft and my truth and an embodiment in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, I just think that that is so important, and it's definitely lacking. And it drives me crazy when people are like, oh, I did a 2-day thing and now I'm certified to like, be this teacher or guru. And I'm like, like that's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But I also think that's part of the process of like understanding too, like, because I mean, I've definitely been there. Like, I know, like, but it was interesting. The things that were like a weekend thing, like those are actually the practices I don't even use in my craft and like in my work. Like my big thing is like Kundalini yoga. That was a 200-hour like certification.
Yep.
Like the real, and I've been practicing every day in some way or form for 5 years. Like that to me is embodiment, where I feel I'm qualified to teach because I live it.
Yes. 1,000,000%.
And there's also,
don't even, go on.
Go ahead. No, you go first.
I was just going to say, like, sometimes, like, so I think there's like a time and a place for certifications, and it depends like what we're talking about here. But I think people get so wrapped up in like, oh, I need XYZ certification or XYZ training, when what you just said about like living it every day, practicing it every day, like that's where the shift is. And that is what creates mastery in my mind. And so I always say, well, okay, like if you're somebody who preaches about like mindfulness, like it's not that you necessarily need like a mindfulness certification, but what are you doing on a daily basis to be mindful? Like what is your practice?
It becomes your essence.
Yeah, exactly.
And people feel it, right? Like I just feel like our bullshit meter is so strong lately. And it's how are you using this as a part of like your being? Like, how are you really
Mhm.
integrating this into your being?
Yep, exactly.
It's
And it's
just,
not easy. And if it was
no.
easy, everybody would be doing it.
Mhm.
So,
But I think that's what's also missing with like the spiritual community is the lack of depth. Like I call it basic bitch spirituality, where it's just like, like a certification or you buy yourself a deck and like just to put pretty like flat lays on Instagram. But it's like, how are you like are you actually working with these tools? Are you actually embodying with these tools? Are you actually connecting? And for me, like I'm just so done with the surface level spirituality of like, oh, I bought this crystal, but like, are you actually, you know what I mean? Like the
yeah.
materialism that is in the spiritual community right now
Yes.
without really like reverence.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I so agree with that. And so it's an interesting conversation too, because it's like we want more people to become aware of this in the tools and the craft and everything. And so it's like, to what extent is it important that it becomes mainstream and that people at least like have a taste of it to enhance like their everyday life? Like, because if I think of some of my friends who are in the corporate world, like even just like knowing about mindfulness or having a crystal that they might not even know like what the hell it means or what to do with it, but like when they hold it at work, it helps them like calm down for whatever reason. Like, is that, even though it's surface and basic, like if it's having a positive effect in their life, like is that okay? And like, is that enough? Or is it like we have to go deep? I don't know. Like, I feel so torn about this sometimes, because it's like, yes, surfacey is like out of integrity, especially if you're teaching it, right? But like some of surface things do create shifts. So
Well, it
I'm
is there.
all
I
about
can
like,
understand what you're saying too, because it is part
yeah,
of the flow of like diving in deeper. But I'm saying more so as like the basic spirituality of like teaching. Like if you're
yeah,
here to be a teacher, you need to have a depth. And Yogi
yeah,
Bhajan would say, if you want to master something, you have to teach it.
yeah, yeah. Okay. No, I'm so with you there, because I mean, that's like everything that that's like my whole messaging around the certification is like, we can't just like skim the surface. We have to go deep. And to go deep, to be the teacher though, you also have to like, the whole entire first part of the certification is about using the tools to experience these shifts and transformations in your own life, because I believe that when you experience them for yourselves and you're practicing these things every single day, that piece of embodiment, then that's when you can speak from experience. That's when like you
Because
are
that's the
so in
connection.
integrity, because it's your life. Yeah.
That's the connection. Like people, like the opposite of addiction is connection. And this world more than ever is craving connection of someone being like, hey, like I see you. I know what you're going through. You're not alone. And this is how
Exactly.
I've been able to overcome it. And I want to help guide you to show you how I've been able to overcome.
Yep. Yep. 1,000,000%. Because we'd have people who applied and they're just like, well, what if I just like want to get like the tools and like the techniques? I'm like, this is not for you. Like, it's crucial that you go through the first part of mastering this, embodying this for yourself. And if you're not available for that, then like you should not be given these tools to teach other people.
Well, that's the other thing too. It's like I know with me with my programs, it's like the first thing I really make sure is that they're looking at their own life and their own selves. Like you need to work on becoming into that space of wholeness within yourself before
Yep.
you're just going out there and building the business, right? Like it's like you
Yes.
coming in that solid container with that confidence of like, hey, like this is my story, this is my journey. I've been able to heal my subconscious and reprogram my subconscious. I am really like honoring my energy, my unique rhythm and flow, so that I can fill up my cup and be able to serve from a space of wholeness rather than from a space of scarcity or what have you.
Absolutely. And also like, it's not going to sell. Like if that's like what you're trying to do, like it's not going to sell. I mean, maybe it will, but you'll self-sabotage in some way, shape, or form, because the identity that you're subscribing to, the belief system is like that you actually like don't know this stuff. You aren't a master of your craft. You haven't lived it. But like people can sense the energy and the confidence behind it. And when you sell something and you're not certain about it, like other people pick up on that 100%. And
Mhm.
so a lot of times people have been asking me like, why have your launches recently been so successful? And I'm like, it's because I believe in what I'm teaching, like to an extreme. Like, I know this works for myself, like through and through, for all like the hundreds now
It's
of
your
people who
truth.
have gone through. Yeah, like it's like there's just so much certainty. Like there's no wonkiness. In the past, there's been like, well, I think I'm teaching this the right way, but like I don't really know. I kind of got an experience or a shift with this, so like I think I can teach it. But now it's just like, this is my life. This is who I am. Like I believe in this so much. So yeah, I'll show up and speak about it all day long.
And it's that confidence and that, like that we said, it's the embodiment.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing that's really cool too. Like, cause I want to talk more about your program. Cause everyone's like, what's this, but, it's like, we have such this beautiful opportunity where we can blend all these different modalities and facets and create something unique, like, I think that's like the blue ocean that we have, where it's like, there's definitely an oversaturation of coaches and stuff, but there's also an opportunity for you to honor and pick up on the pieces that resonate with you, the modalities that have helped you.
Yes.
And how do we blend it all together to create something unique? So even if you've been someone who's done a lot of certifications, but there are certifications that you've actually embodied and resonate with, and you're not just trying to push out there to make money, but to actually like teach and share, you have an opportunity to create something uniquely yours. And there's no
Yeah.
one out there doing that, because nothing out there nothing out there has your essence. Nothing out there has your special taste and your flavoring.
Yes, absolutely. I always say that if somebody were to go ahead and like teach my program word for word, the same format, same words, everything, like people would get an entirely different experience out of it just by who is standing in front of them and speaking the words and holding the space. And so I think that that's just such an important thing to say, because so many people are like, well, there are business coaches out there, there are Kundalini leaders, and there are like spiritual practitioners and whatever. And it's like, yeah, there are, but no one is doing it in your way. No one has your history, your essence, your magic. And so it's impossible for like there to be, any competition when everybody is truly so unique. And I think it's so great too, because there are all these modalities, and people always are like, well, like, is NLP or like hypnosis or whatever, like the thing that like, works. I'm like, I believe it works because I experienced such profound change with it. And that's my truth. Other people, like, they might not resonate with it, and like Kundalini might be their thing. So like, try it on, see if it fits, feel out how it aligns with you. But like, there's never one answer or one thing. It's just what feels most true for you. And I think that the more that we like the more I see people like trying to like find like the one size solution or the magic pill, the more I'm like, this is not for you. Because yes, it has the power to do that, but I really do not want to be attracting people who are like looking for something external and outside of them to be the solution. Because ultimately, I think at its core essence, the most powerful things help you tune into who you are and tap into what's inside of you to create the change. And so I think
Inner
people
is
have to
creating
be
the
ready for that.
outer. You have to do the deep
Exactly.
internal work first, especially if you're going into this field, like,
Mm-hmm.
without a doubt. And it's interesting because like it reminds me a lot of like cookie cutter approaches, and
Yep.
those don't work.
No,
They don't work. Like,
they don't.
we're
I've tried
all,
them.
yeah, me too. And I was just like, I've spent like tens of thousands of dollars on these damn cookie cutter approaches, and then just left me like in the dust.
Totally.
And
Totally.
and I think that's another part of like going through that process of like gaining confidence in yourself as well, right? Like if you keep going in the cookie cutter, it's a harder time for you to trust your intuition and to believe in your own worth and the worth of your craft and the worth of your medicine.
Yeah, because what I found too is I was putting coaches on pedestals, and I was making like their word gospel and more important than my truth. And that was really, really dangerous and really disappointing, because when I saw that they were human, they came crashing off the pedestal. Then I questioned like everything I was doing. So something that I like to practice and that I like to just say to my students too is like, yeah, okay, I might be the person who created this experience, but really this is a collective. Like, I am not up here, you are not down here, we are in circle together. Like, your truth is the most important thing that there is. So in this experience, I'm going to be sharing what's worked for me, what I've seen work for other people, and what I'm really excited about. Now, I invite you to try it on, like I was saying before, and see what resonates. Take what does, leave what doesn't. If something feels off, let me know so we can personalize it and tweak it and customize it to completely match you, because I do not want to create these cloned carbon copies of me. Like, that's not what I'm here for. Like, this is about you and your journey and figuring out what your unique path is. And so I think that in order to do that, like, it's so important that we like take ourselves off the pedestal too, and really encourage people to see everybody inside as valuable and as human. And that we're all in this together. We're all on a journey learning as well. Like, I'm not up here, you're not down there. We're all like, you know,
we're all in our different ebbs and flows. We're all in different stages of our lives. And I think that's like part of like the humbleness, you know? And I know for me, like, sometimes I like, you know, just I've been now very diligent and very intentional in who I'm bringing into this space.
Yeah.
Because I've seen the false prophets. Like, I'm a sociologist. Like, I have my degree in marketing and sociology. So I study groups of people. Like, that's what I've been trained to do. And I know for me, it's like you said, it's really crucial to make sure that the people we are learning from to still embrace their humanness.
Yes. Yes.
And not this like spiritual egotism of like, oh, well, I have a blue check mark next to my name on Instagram, so I bow down to me.
Yep. I am so like, I can't agree with you more. And I think it's like our responsibility too, though. So it's like who we're learning from. Like, of course, like I think that we should be very selective about who we choose to like be in someone's energy around, but also like it's up to us to take them off the pedestal, because because sometimes they don't even put themselves there, we do. And so I think we have to be really careful about our own projections as well, and realize that we're responsible for that, and we can shift that if we want to.
Like the hierarchy, right? Like, yeah, the false prophet and like all of that. I mean, I'm just in this space right now where I am so transparent about it because there's not enough people talking about it. And I believe in this work because it's helped me. Like we just said, like, I believe in this, you know, and with that, I also believe, oh, it's 11:11 here right now. I also believe that we have to become aware of who we give our power to.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. I think, yeah. And that's why I freaking love the work that I do and that you do, because it's not about people giving us power, putting the power in our hands. It's about like us helping put the power back in their hands, and showing them like that is ultimately like what I'm teaching people to do inside of these programs. It's like giving them the tools, the support, the practices for them to be like, oh, like it's all inside of me. Like, I don't need Lexi to facilitate some process or something. Like, I have the power to do this. And yeah, because like the last thing I want is for people to think like there's something like magical and amazing about me, and that they need me in order to create
Codependency.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
That's what's it showing, is like the codependency. It's just really fascinating. Like I said, just watching like what's happening, and just also while I watch, like being gentle with myself as to where I used to do that.
Oh yeah.
Right. And that's been the real opportunity for me to reclaim my power back.
Yeah, I think also too, like just another note is like I used to notice in the past, like I would be if I wasn't getting a certain result that I wanted, like I would totally put it on the coach of the program, and I'd be like, well, you know, this program doesn't have this support or like that support or this or that. And of course there's like, to a degree, like, well, not to a degree, to a very high degree, like as coaches, as people who are facilitating
Have a
inside of the container,
responsibility.
we have a responsibility to provide like, top level support and content and all that stuff. And I also realized like there was a certain point where I just made a decision that no matter what I invest in, no matter what I do, like I am going to get what I came from. Like the intention is that like it is up to me if there's something off, or if I know that I can be supported in a better way, to speak up and to say something, or to shift something about the way that I'm doing, and to really claim that radical responsibility, because it's so much easier to like put it onto somebody else versus, take it for yourself. And I've been learning this lesson a lot too, because I'm on this whole, sexuality journey as well. And I feel like kind of like a newbie in this journey, even though it's something that I've been exploring for years now. But I realized like I was putting a lot of like the blame on my husband for things. I'm like, well, he's not like this enough or that enough. And if only he did this or did that, like then like we would have like total fireworks every single day and like whatever. And then when I was really honest, I was like, oh shit, it's not him, it's me. Like I'm the one who's not taking responsibility for certain things in the way that I am loving myself and being with myself, and that is leaking into how I'm showing up in the relationship. And so it's just,
I think it's because I've been working through that too. It's that like external validation of approval as well, without taking that responsibility of like an opportunity for me to validate my own self, to approve of my own self. And I think a lot of that has to do with like subconscious, and childhood programming and
totally.
things like that. Like, were we accepted by mom and dad? Like, how were we in school? Like, I think for me, the biggest thing has been like, that's been the biggest thing that I've really worked through, is that like, that need of approval, right? And I think back of like going to school and like trying to fit in with the popular girls, but then realize like I was paving my own path, and I was not born to fit in. I was made to stand out. And then that happened again when I came into this industry, like trying to hang out with the popular girls. And then I realized like I actually don't want to be with those people either. Like, so I think it's so crazy when you can see the patterns. And I know that's a lot of the work that you're helping people really focus on, is like, what are the patterns that are causing the limitations and the self-sabotage and the holding back of really going out there and unleashing your medicine, unleashing and sharing your magic, your uniqueness.
Yeah. It's such like important in just radical work. And it's just so fascinating to see like when you step into like the observer position and you're just like, oh, like that's interesting. And it's just bringing awareness to what is. I mean, obviously there's deeper levels to transmute things, but even just being able to go from this space of blaming or being like in a victim mindset or whatever it is, to almost neutral, where it's just like, oh, like I'm just going to look at the situation with total zero judgment, all love, and just be like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, there's that pattern again. There's that pattern again. And not being like, you suck. What's wrong with you? Like, why are you doing this again? But just being like, interesting. Okay. And even that alone, like there's steps after that, but even that alone, there's so much power in that. So I'm always encouraging people, like as like step one is just to notice, just become aware and remove judgment and see like what's there for you, because it can be really a fascinating experience.
Which is interesting because next year, 2020, we're going into a 4-year, which is in Kundalini Yoga. We talk about how we're not one body, but we're actually 10. We have 6 energetic, 1 physical, and 3 mental. And so next year is a 4-year. And so we are going, and I talked about this 2 episodes before with Remington Donovan, and it's the year of the neutral mind next year.
Oh, interesting.
So I
Love that.
feel like we're in these last weeks of not just 2019, but we're in the last weeks of this decade. And this decade was tumultuous. Like we had 2012, we had the current president we had like, it's a lot of us were like a lot of people here listening, we're in our 20s, still trying to figure out who we are. We're all in our 30s or going towards our 30s. And there was a lot of shit that we've had to work through. And we're in these last weeks of like being able to observe and see how far we've come,
Yes.
and to see like the discernment and like the boundaries of what you will and will not stand for anymore.
Yes.
And I feel like that's why it's been really gnarly, especially like the past couple of years, and this year and this summer was super brutal. I don't know, like Leo season kicked my ass and so many other people's asses. But we are having to face what is no longer in alignment with us as we go into 2020 crystal vision. And that
Totally.
takes work.
Yes, yes. Like I've been feeling the crunchies so much lately because yeah, like I mean, I've experienced the most quote unquote success that I ever have inside of my business, but it's also, created these things that I didn't even think I had to think about inside of my business prior, and really like stepping into like the CEO, business woman, leader of my company has been such a stretch in terms of like managing team, looking at finances in a new way, and like really having these boundaries about our policies and procedures with, clients and students, and like things that like are not sexy or not fun, but like you were saying, it's like a call for like what you're available for and what you're not available for, and really taking a stand for I'm going to operate moving forwards as well, and who you're going to be. And that can be really, really uncomfortable in the transition, but it's been incredible to just see like when I continue to choose like my truth and like the higher version of who I am, aka the truest version of who I am. Yeah, magic does happen, even though it can be crunchy in between.
And that again, like, like the more that there's on the plate, like, the more the abundance and things, the more responsibility there also
Yeah.
comes too.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like something that I'm also trying to, wrap my mind, body, soul around, is like, I think that there's like that fear or that limiting belief of, okay, well, as I grow, as I become more visible, as I like have more students inside of my programs, like, does it become more difficult? Does it become like, you know, more things to deal with? And so like, yes, there is more responsibility. And I'm also trying to figure out like, how can I play with this more like quantum-y versus like, oh, it's going to be harder and it's tougher and like old paradigm thinking versus like, okay, well, yeah, there might be new things added into the mix, but how does it get to be easier and more enjoyable too? Like, how do I get to be more supported by team? And, spirit and this and that, and really be held in rising into my leadership, into my sovereignty and all that stuff. So something that I'm definitely in the process of right now and
It's
still
a
feeling
form,
into.
of sovereignty in that way too, of
Yeah.
choosing, like, do I allow this belief to be the truth because this is what I've been conditioned to say, this is what it is?
Right.
Or do I choose to allow it to be with more ease and grace? Do I
Yeah.
choose to allow myself to set myself up to experience that and take action to experience that? Because it's more than just like the desire. It's like, okay, you have that desire, cool, but what are you actively doing to allow that desire to be experienced?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And I just think that the only rules are like there are no rules except for the rules that we make, and like in our queendom, kingdom, whatever it is, like we literally get to choose the rules and live according to them, and like the laws of the universe or of our queendom like adapt to like what we say they are. So when I decided like in the past, like, well, launches have to be hard and stressful and done a certain way, that was truth and that was my reality. But when I chose like, oh no, I get to launch in a way that feels really good to me, it gets to feel fun and easy. Like I don't have to do 5-day challenges or this or this or that. Like that became law, that became truth. And that was what was created in my reality. So I think we have to be very, very careful about our beliefs and the rules that we're creating for ourselves, because those are what come to play.
Because again, this is all your creation.
Yep. Yep. And
You
it sounds so woo and out there. I mean, I know the people who listen to this are like so into that. But like,
it's very
even still,
practical.
yeah. Like I'm always just reminded, like, it sounds crazy, but it's so true. And you've seen it time and time again. So what do you choose? What do you desire? What do you want? And like you said, what are like the activating actions and things that you can put into place to like initiate those things and get them rolling and becoming your reality. So also
Yes.
cool.
It's, I mean, and this is, I feel like there needs to be more conversations about that, because it's more than just like investing in a program and then like expecting the results. It's like, what are you actually doing and taking initiative to experience? Because trust me, I've been there too. Like,
Me too.
totally have been there. I've spent lots of money on programs. I actually, the other night, I burned all of like, I had like a stack of like freebies and like worksheets and like all the shit that I had, like where I was so still feeling so insecure about like my business and my craft. Right. And I just had them sitting in my office and I'm like, this is dense. Like, this is not serving me. And I burned it.
I love that. How'd it feel?
Oh, I've been burning a lot of things lately. Like I burnt some decks the other day on the equinox that I don't resonate with anymore, or that just don't feel in alignment. I burned some old books of teachings that I was a devotee to when I first started the spiritual path. I've burned those worksheets.
Wow.
The thing is, like, that is me showing the universe that I am creating space to receive the next level.
Yes. Yes. Like, it's so important too. Like, I think people, this is like something that we have in orientation. It's like clearing the clutter, both physically and mentally and emotionally and energetically and all the things. But like the physical stuff has such a profound impact on our energy. And oh my God, like, I mean, just think about like clearing out a desk or like a little corner in your home. Like, it sounds like a silly task or to do, but it really does just create so much more space that is available for the things that are now in alignment for you. But
it clears the stagnation too.
Yeah,
And the
exactly.
density.
Exactly. It's like having all that shit is just like lowering the frequency or keeping it the same. And when you get rid of that, it's like so much space for something higher and more aligned to come in. And that's awesome. That's powerful.
Yeah, because I'm in that space of like, okay, cool. If there's like a program I've done in the past where there's even like, you know, if I have lifetime access to, I can just go back to that, especially because like probably the things I wrote when I first embarked on that journey, like I don't probably resonate with that because I've evolved.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I completely agree. Oh my goodness. I like, and now I'm like, what do I have? I did a pretty big clean moving over here to Bermuda. We got rid of like 75% of our stuff, I feel like. So that was a big letting go of, but I'm like, I'm sure there's digitally, I think like there's like a lot of random.
And that's the thing we have to remember now too, is like back then there weren't external hard drives and all the things, you know. Now we have like another layer that we have to take responsibility for the energy of.
Yeah. And I like just again noticed that like I have such a pattern of like hoarding. And like, yeah, like, okay, well, maybe I'll need that freebie down the line, or like, this was kind of like in the past now, but even now I'm like, ooh, that was like a good idea that I saw like on somebody's like Instagram feed, like save that for inspiration for later or whatever it is. And I've noticed like, I used to be like, I collect things and like I keep them organized, but I'm like, no, I fucking hoard. And so just to observe that, I'm like, oh, like interesting. Like what has me in this like hoarding mentality? Clearly, like I don't trust maybe what is, and like feel like I need to like go back to these other things. And so again, just that awareness and like digging a little bit deeper into it, not making it wrong or bad, but like, okay, this is just what is. What do I desire instead? What's available for me, and how can I move forwards into this new space?
And
So,
how can I start aligning to that version of me that is in that new space?
yep, exactly. And like, what would she do differently?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, probably not like save that freaking freebie or like sign up for it, like just because. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So then I want to go around that with talking about your certification program, because you
Yeah.
have all the different, like, you know, the NLP and the EFT and the hypnotherapy and all these different modalities that can help us, because a lot of that is subconscious as well.
Yes,
Like
exactly.
that hoarding, like it's what you saw as a child, like maybe that's how you were raised with your parents, or again, like the scarcity or whatever the story is, you know, that's
Mm.
so deeply programmed in the cellular memory of your body, of your mind. Like it's so critical to really like purge. So I
Yep.
would love to hear more about the different modalities that this program really shares.
Yeah. So like just to kind of like just speak about that for a second too is like the way that I see it, and I'm for those of you who are not watching this, I'm kind of making a ball with my hands. But the way that I see it is like we have like the core true essence of who we are, like our profound magic, our soul, whatever it is that you want to like say, but like the truth of us here. And then we have like all these layers of conditioning from society, from our family, from our upbringing, these like lies or whatever. And so it like creates like all these layers on top. And so a lot of the conscious stuff, like it will kind of like just like skim the surface or like dust off the surface, but it's just dusting off like the top layers. Whereas like with the subconscious reprogramming, you're really able to like take each layer off and really get into the truth of who you are, and really like just release the conditioning, release the lies that you've told yourself, that society has told you, or whatever it is, and really come back to who you truly are. So it's not about becoming somebody else, or like, you know, I sometimes say like next level you or next version you, but it's really just the truest version of you. And so NLP, EFT, time techniques, hypnotherapy, all these things are just different tools and modalities to um, shed those layers and to release those, you know, limiting beliefs, negative patterns, disempowering thoughts, all that stuff. So, yeah, like, do you want me to talk about like each one of them specifically?
Sure. I mean, if people don't know what these are, like, what's that, you know?
Yeah. So NLP, it sounds like super geeky, is neuro-linguistic programming. And it works with both the conscious and the unconscious mind. Um, you know, all of these things, like I said, it really helps to remove those like limiting beliefs and yada, yada, yada. But basically, like the idea of NLP is all about modeling excellency. So the founders of NLP, they basically like looked at the people who are most successful in these various fields and like really observed like what they were doing, so they could then model that and teach other people how to model this. And so specifically too, in terms of like dealing with phobias, getting rid of like anxiety, being able to like reprogram the mind, they were like, okay, who are like the leading people who are the best at this? Like, what is their method, what is their madness? And they developed like these different techniques like from all these situations. So NLP is like actually a living breathing thing. There aren't like set techniques and like those are the only ones. Like there are the very well-known ones, but it's also about learning like the principles and the practices, and the like the theory of how to sort of like create change on the subconscious level. And then you can also like sort of create your own techniques from it with those principles, which I think is really cool. Um, then there is time techniques, which is kind of like it's like a technique within NLP, but it really it's similar to timeline therapy, where you work with your timeline, and people visualize and experience their timeline in various ways, but it helps to get to the root of a limiting belief or the root of a negative emotion and eliminate it from the root.
Mm-hmm.
relive the trauma or, you know, the pain of the actual event. So it's like crazy, crazy powerful.
I did that this weekend. Like,
Oh, you did?
yeah, because I'm writing my book right now. And so I like had two pieces of like computer paper, of like a calendar paper because it's big. And I just did like the timeline. Like page 1 was like before I got struck by lightning, and page 2 was like after I got struck by lightning. And it brought up a lot. Like,
I'm sure.
it's the most vulnerable practice I've ever done.
Mm, mm. Oh my God. I bet. Yeah. I can't. I'm like, now I want to read your book. I can't wait to read your book. I'm sure it's gonna be amazing. But
Oh,
yeah, like,
thank you, babe.
yeah, it's incredible. And then hypnotherapy, I'm sure people have like heard about it before, but there's different techniques that are more overt or covert. And there's like the way that people think of hypnotherapy is like, you know, like close your eyes and relax. There's also like hypnotic language patterns and how you can use those to speak to the subconscious mind, like even in conversation, to help people eliminate those unwanted habits and beliefs and whatnot. And then EFT is basically it's a set of techniques that's designed to balance the energy system of the body.
Tapping.
And yeah, it's exactly tapping. So it's based on the same scientifically proven principles as acupuncture, but like no needles needed. So that's nice. And again, it's just like another way to work with the conscious and the subconscious. And then I have integrative alchemy, which is my own methodology and my own modality that like kind of takes all the fucking things that I've learned over the years and alchemizes them together in that integrative way, hence integrative alchemy. So like things like shadow work, things like working with archetypes, things like, I mean, all different coaching skills. I mean, like, there's like so much woven into it, ancient and modern magic, like, you know, all the stuff. So it's very multidimensional to say the
Sign
least.
me up, right? Like shit.
Yes, it's awesome. It's awesome. I'm so proud of it. And it's just so cool to see the results that our students are getting, even like in the first couple weeks of the program alone. So I'm excited for the remaining 6 months inside. It's going to be epic.
And so when are you launching it again?
Yeah.
You're launching it again. You're launching it
February.
again in February, correct?
I am. So we will be enrolling prior to that, but the next round, the winter collective for 2020, begins February 24th. So mark your calendar.
And if you want to, you can sign up by checking out the link in the show notes below, or you can check out bit.ly, all in caps, IAPSS. And when you sign up through there, you're also going to get a one-on-one coaching call with me where we can come up with market strategy for you.
That's epic.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. So that's part of my gift for you for joining through the Sovereign Society podcast here. So again, it's bit.ly/IAPSS, all in caps. But I mean, it sounds incredible, and I'm so proud of you. And just like I said, I've been watching your journey for so long, and to just see how it's evolved, like it's so incredible. Like I'm so proud of you, girl. Like way to crush it. Like boss bitch right here. Like crush it. Appreciate it.
I love you. I received that. Thank you so much. It feels so good to be here in this space, and I'm excited for what's to come too. But I really appreciate that reflection. Thank you.
Yeah. And that's, like we've been talking about this whole episode, like if you are just getting started and like you're seeing where Lexi's at right now, like don't beat yourself up because this has been a journey for her. Okay.
Yeah. Oh God, not a long journey, but like 6 years, right? And even before that, I was doing entrepreneurial pursuits that were flopping all over the place. So yeah, never judge, your chapter 1 to anyone else's chapter 1 for that matter, but let alone their chapter like 10 or 100.
Yeah, totally. So I want to wrap up this conversation with a quick lightning round. This has been so fun.
Woo!
Okay. What does sovereignty mean to you?
Sovereignty to me, like, yeah, the first thing that comes to me is just like being able to choose what like, it's like what you desire in any moment. So sovereignty to me today might be like being in my power in a certain way. So for example, like today in this moment, sovereignty is all about me stating my boundaries and me being in my truth and me really being clear on my desires and communicating those with myself and with others in this moment. But true sovereignty is being able to change that definition whenever I desire and to know that it's going to evolve over time as well.
Yes, I love that. Okay, so what's been an animal totem that's been guiding you and really supporting you on this path?
Mm. I wanted to say unicorn because I say unicorn for everything, but no, it sounds silly, but I've always loved unicorns before they were cool. But I think
Before they
that
were
to me,
trendy.
before they were trendy, for real. I've had unicorns around me like all my life. But I think to me it just represents something that is so unique, so magical, and it like doesn't give a shit if you don't believe in it or not, because it's still there, it's still sparkling, it's still doing its thing. And it just keeps reminding me to come back to my truth, my magic all the time, and that I don't have to be like anybody but myself. And that when I am myself, that's when I shine the most brightly as well.
I love that. Who is someone that's really inspiring you right now?
Ooh, someone inspiring me right now. Oh, okay. I'm going to say Alexa Martinez. So she is my sex coach. And she's just such an epic, amazing human. And she's somebody who's been so patient with me through the process of my own resistance and weirdness and, you know, all the things that come up when navigating something new. And she's helped me really do this my way, in a way that feels good for me. And just, yeah, I just think that she's such a cool human, and she just creates such a space of love and acceptance. And it's beautiful. So definitely check her out.
Amazing. Okay, so what would you say to younger Lexi?
Oh, younger Lexi, I love you so much. Oh, it like makes me emotional. I don't think there's anything I would say to do differently, but just to keep staying true to you. And I know that I keep saying that and it sounds so fucking corny, but it's just like, you know your truth, you know your power. Like, remember it, continue to choose it in every moment, because I think where I got confused and lost along the way was just putting my power in other people and to do that. And I had to learn those lessons. So I wouldn't change a thing, but just tell her that she's doing great. And I love her.
Yay. Where can we find more of you?
You can find more of me over at lexidangelo.com. And I mean, Instagram is really where I hang out. So Lexi D'Angelo over on Instagram. That's LEXIDANGELO. I'm always in stories and DMs. So come say hi.
Awesome. And what would be one last little bit of advice you would give to those who are listening?
I didn't think this was going to be my message, but be patient. Like, that is something that I know I struggle with. I want things to happen like yesterday. But I think be patient and have faith, and always be tapped into your vision and know that it's available and ready for you right now. And it's the micro commitments of continuing to choose it over and over again, and having the faith that it is going to be your reality, even when you're not seeing the physical or tangible evidence, and allowing faith to be the bridge between where you are now and where you know you are going to be in the future.
Oh, that makes me cry.
Love you.
Oh, I love you. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your magic and your wisdom and your truth. And I appreciate you. And like I said, I'm so excited to continue to watch this evolution of you and your business and your medicine, and just to see how I feel like if there's anyone who like I appreciate with branding, it's you, because I'm always like, God, this girl's on it all the time. Like, and I really value that. Like, that's like my passion in business is branding. Like, it is what it is. And so again, like, I'm just so inspired by you and your work and seeing what's possible. So thank you again for sharing all of your truth here and continuing out there and sharing all the things.
Thank you for having me. You are incredible. You are just such an amazing person, soul, all the things. My dogs are going crazy. I love you and I appreciate you. So thank you for having me. This was so fun.
Yes, thank you. And thank you everyone for tuning in, and go check out all the things Lexi has to offer, because she always has so much valuable content she's sharing. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll be chatting with you all soon.
Awesome.